Hello my kings, queens, and fellow non-binary leaders, and welcome back to Nerdy Nekoma. Today's video is called Stupid Gravity, and it is another request that I've gotten through my request form. Sadly, the person did not leave a name to give credit to, but it was about Kenma fainting in front of the team. I took some liberties with that prompt. For real this time, and yeah, it's her comfort, it's KuroKen. I hope you enjoy. Kenma groaned. The heat was excessive. Even though it was noon and the sky tainted a pastel orange, the sun stood still high enough to make the track a living hell. It burned down on him with vicious heat, and somewhere in the back of his mind he was glad Haikyuu had forced them all to apply sunscreen. He didn't want to know what it would have done to his rather pale complexion otherwise. Turns out, spending as much time as he could inside had disadvantages. You'd think the training the Nekoma team, their coach, and Kuroo practically forced him to attend would make up for his lack of exercise, but in the past 2 years his stamina hadn't improved one bit. His setting? Sure. His strategies? Without doubt. And perhaps even the strength in his arms to a tiny, perhaps minuscule degree. But his stamina? Not a chance. Just now he was treading along the long, winded roads, breathing in hot summer air, with the unforgiving rays of sun roasting him from above, while a more slow but equally uncomfortable heat rose from the pavement below. The others were long out of sight, some complaining about being tired, but none really looking the part. Not like Kenma, who never gave in to the illusion he would be able to keep up with them. It didn't matter though. They were used to it. He was used to it. It was normal at this point, and he was glad to go without Tora's shouts of encouragement that never truly encouraged him. It was probably good-natured, but it all sounded stupid to him. And yet, here he was, running, when he could have just let himself fall into a slow walk. At worst, it would earn him a light scolding from Haikyuu or their coach. A couple of jokes at his expense and Kuroo's mock disappointment, when in reality the dark kid knew this all too well of him. Yet he didn't slow down. His pace was already slow, but still a run, or rather a slow jog. It wasn't determination exactly, though he had to admit if Tora taunted him, there was a small part of him that was determined to prove him wrong. Not today, however. Not in this heat. No, it was more habit? Not quite. More like he felt like the moment he changed his steady pace, he'd stop or collapse. Right now, he somehow managed to keep going, but he doubted he'd be able to continue if interrupted, and so he proceeded at the same dragging pace, hoping some glitch in the game would bring him to his goal faster somehow. He took the next corner knowing that it wasn't the last, and still hoped he could cheat himself to the finish line. Turns out, real life had a lot less bugs and cheats to exploit than video games. It truly was much worse in design, at least when it comes to player experience. He let out a sigh and stumbled. Somehow, that small alteration in his breathing pattern was enough to throw him off. He tried to regain his rhythm, but too late. Suddenly his ears were filled with the pounding of his heart beating wildly against his ribcage, his desperate breaths as he gasped for air, and the rushing of blood just under his skin. He hadn't realized how bad it had gotten until it hit him full force, and it felt as though a sudden vacuum had opened up in his lungs. He was hungry for air, but never seemed to be capable of breathing in enough. The last indicator that something was much more wrong than usual were the black dots suddenly claiming and dancing in his field of vision as he tried to regain orientation. The rest blurred around them, and he felt his body growing heavier as gravity pulled him down onto the hot asphalt mercilessly. Yeah, this game truly sucked. Here, drink some water. Haikyuu offered, or rather forced the bottle onto the younger libero. It wouldn't even have been necessary, only half lucid from the heat, Shibayama accepted it gladly. The small libero had arrived last of them, out of breath and clearly not appreciating the weather, yet he was holding up remarkably well. He arrived just shortly after Inooka and Fukunaga. Though Kuroo suspected the former might not have given it his all today, perhaps on purpose, to stay close to a certain libero? He grinned to himself and quickly scanned his exhausted team. All in all, he was satisfied with today's training, but of course one person was still missing, Kenma. He honestly didn't expect it differently at this point. It was good if Yamamoto's expression was anything to go by. Despite being a little out of breath himself, Kuroo had the slight inkling he'd gladly push for them to continue training if they hadn't had to wait for Kenma. It gave them all a moment to breathe and to refill their water bottles that Haikyuu so diligently and insistently handed out to everyone present. A bit off to the side, Liev and Inooka chatted happily as though they weren't even scratched by the exhaustion. At least in Inooka's case, Kuroo could explain it away since he had taken it slow today. But the silver-haired was a bit too much like Chibi-chan in that regard. The thought of Hinata reminded him once more of his boyfriend, probably still running slowly, or perhaps he had taken to walking by now, and yet something didn't feel right. Usually he would have caught up with them by now, or at least appeared on the horizon, a prime target for Yamamoto's teasing as he cheered him on. Something that annoyed Kenma to no end, and yet Kuroo had this slight suspicion he was secretly fond of them. Otherwise, he would have never allowed for this. But as he looked up ahead, Kenma was nowhere to be seen. From the side, he earned a few playful comments remarking his overbearingness when it came to the setter, but he just rolled his eyes and brushed them off. I better go look for him. Let's hope he didn't get lost again. That was unlikely. This wasn't a training camp but their home. Kenma knew these streets and had walked and run them probably 100 if not 1,000 times already. Wait, take this. I bet he forgot to take one with him again. Haikyuu threw a water bottle at him, a little too forceful to be well-intentioned and easy to catch, but Kuroo did it regardless and stretched his tongue out to the other. Haikyuu didn't dignify that with an equally childish response and just huffed. It distracted him momentarily from his worry, and he started his path back with a simple jog, feeling almost weightless. He embraced the slowly setting sun disappearing behind some high buildings, and yet it reminded him again that Kenma was more than a little late. He embraced the cooler shadows, but his senses sharpened and wary. When he found him around another corner, unmoving on the ground, his heart seemed to stop momentarily before picking up speed. Kenma! He rushed over to him and found with relief that, upon being shaken by his shoulders, Kenma's eyes slowly opened. They were glassy and he looked pale, but it didn't appear to be anything too severe. Still. How are you feeling? Did you faint again? Kenma nodded slowly, his eyes closing once more as he leaned against Kuroo. He groaned in protest as the taller propped him up against his chest and guided him into a sitting position. Do you know how long you were unconscious? Yes, because I most definitely started a timer or watched the clock while passed out. Kuroo rolled his eyes, but a small smile tightened his lips. Kenma only used sarcasm when truly exhausted, but if he had still energy to taunt Kuroo, that was generally a good sign. Alright, I get it. Here, drink. You look dehydrated. He was suddenly more than glad that Haikyuu insisted he takes the water bottle as he handed it to Kenma. The setter glared at him, seemingly wanting nothing more than to rest. But as soon as the cool liquid touched his lips, he gulped it down greedily. Kuroo suspected he might not have even noticed how thirsty he was. It happened more often than he was comfortable with. Can we just walk back? I don't want to run anymore. His heart melted as Kenma let his head fall against his chest, as if he could ever deny him in this state. The smaller let out a surprised yelp when suddenly Kuroo lifted him into his arms. Don't worry, you won't have to do any more running. He looked like he was debating whether the teasing comment of their teams would be worth it, and ultimately decided as long as he could hide against Kuroo's neck, he would need to face them. The taller laughed. He knew exactly what was going on in Kenma's head. Soon he fell into a light jog, which in the slowly cooling air felt effortless, even with Kenma in his arms. He didn't comment on it out loud, knowing that the smaller would just scowl at him. Would you look at that? Kuroo saved the princess. Yamamoto's laugh drowned out Kenma's annoyed groan as he hid his face further against his chest. Kenma, are you okay? Was the jog really that demanding? Yaku raised an eyebrow while Kenma avoided all of them. He didn't let go when Kuroo offered to set him down, so he straightened his back again and simply adjusted him in his arms. Actually, it wasn't his fault. He fainted. He wasn't sure the concern now replacing the teasing and scolding was preferred by the setter, but Kuroo hated when it was implied the setter was lazy. Oh, is he? Have you drank enough water? Kuroo, you gave him the water bottle, right? Of course. He glanced at his boyfriend, noticing how he shifted uncomfortably in his arms. He didn't like the attention. I better bring him home to rest. See you all tomorrow. He cut off the questions and quickly shouldered Kenma's and his own bag with one hand. He wouldn't have been able to hadn't Kenma clung to him like a koala. This way, they ended cuddled up together in the setter's bed, resting and just enjoying each other's presence as Kuroo watched him doze off to sleep. I love you, kitten. He gently brushed a strand of hair from his face before placing a gentle kiss on his temple. Kenma stirred, half asleep already, and snuggled closer to him. Good night. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed it and want to see more of my content. And if you have any requests of your own, check out the request form, it's linked in the description below. As you can see, whenever I have the time, I will make some of them into videos. I'm really excited about this one. Also tell me your favorite quote and or moment of this story under the pinned comment. It would mean the world to me and helps me to make better content for you in the future. I absolutely enjoyed and loved making this, so I hope you liked it too. A special thanks as always goes out to my nerdy neckos. Thank you so much. And here are my other social media, but I would especially ask you to check out the Discord if you want. The link is in the description of the channel. It has a coming soon section for all the projects I'm currently working on, and the most voted ones I prioritize, like this one. This was, at the moment of making this, the most voted on. Here's more content. Check it out if you like. And now if you want to find an amazing day. Bye everyone!
Step 4. Everybody just do your thing. Wake up.